We have accepted foreign delicacies, Thai food, Chinese food, Italian food. We enjoy all. We have even adopted Western clothing, coat suits, skirts, jeans, as if it was Indian culture itself. Then why do we become so apprehensive when it comes to foreign languages, and especially when that language is English? We become so fearful, we lack confidence, shy, we become hesitant when it comes to speaking, when it comes to using English in our day-to-day conversation. Today, English is the language used in the proceedings of the Supreme Court of India. It is an associate official language as declared by the Constitution of India. Most of the government documentations are done in this language. It is the primary language used in the business, private, banking sectors. In total, 67 countries and 27 non-sovereign entities around the world use this as an official language. And this is the reason why international business and bilateral trade require English as a common language. The most important organizations, United Nations organizations, the NATO, the European Union, use English as their legal language. Most of the content, more than 50% of the content available on the internet is in English. The higher and the technical educations are available in English. Most of the technologies used in India are received from the English countries. So this language is inevitable from our lives. According to a report by the British Council, in 2020, more than 2 billion people would be speaking English. That means more than a quarter of the world's population would be speaking in a language which is not their native language. By the way, I'm not here to tell you the importance of English in your lives. That you all know really well. The point I want to make here today is that why shouldn't we treat English as a foreign language? Usage of English language in India is not so new. To understand this, we need to move quite a few years back in our history. English education is synonymous with Minutes of Indian Education, 1835 by T.B. Macaulay, where we understand that it was a ruse of Britishers' divide and rule policy. It was imposed on us with a mission to create a division between the elite and the commoners. Some of the Indians also have a point of view that it was introduced in India to crush the ancient Indian education system. However, we need to understand that the wheels of English education system was set in motion much before. It was brought into force by two sources which were totally different in nature. One was the missionaries and the other was semi-rationalist movement. The Christian missionaries had started their educational activities in the country as early as 1542 with the arrival of Saint Francis Xavier's. The first formal Christian educational enterprise anywhere outside Europe was the Santa Fe School at Goa. After that, these activities started spreading throughout the country, which greatly influenced the education system of India. However, the missionary activities gave a new vision to the elementary education with the introduction of instructions at regular and fixed hours, a broad curriculum, a clear-cut class system. The missionaries promoted and developed Indian languages by printing books in various vernacular languages. Hand in hand, they also promoted the English education system or teaching Western curriculum with the medium of English language. It was much later that in 1817, a semi-rationalist movement led by the celebrated reformer Raja Ram Mohan Roy supported the thought that many good things could be achieved by following so-called English education. Raja Ram Mohan Roy was an Indian educational, social and religious reformer. He challenged the traditional Hindu culture and laid down the lines of progress of Indian society under British rule. He is also sometimes referred to as the father of modern India. As a youth, he travelled widely outside the country. He was a polyglot. He learned many languages like Arabic, Persian, Sanskrit, English, along with his native languages Bengali and Hindi. In 1805, Raja Ram Mohan Roy was employed as an assistant by John Digby, a lower East India Company official. 10 years from then, he moved in and out the East India Company service as Digby's assistant. Now, before we move forward, we need to understand one thing. Now, Britishers came to India as tradesmen, and eventually they became the rulers of the country. But as the rulers, they never recognized their duty or obligation to promote education among the Indians. It was only in 1813 when the company's charter was renewed and a clause was inserted that the Governor General needs to spend not less than 1 lakh rupees towards the education of the Indian people. Now, following this, the government of Bengal proposed a more traditional Sanskrit college, to which Roy protested, saying that the classical Indian literature would not help prepare the youth for the demands of modern life. Instead, he proposed a more modern Western curriculum of study. He called for the establishment of European college based on Western education system rather than a Sanskrit college. He questioned the usefulness of Sanskrit studies. He argued that the amount of 1 lakh rupees which was mentioned in the company's charter 1813 should be spent on employing European gentlemen of talent and education who would instruct and educate native Indians in subjects like mathematics, natural philosophy, chemistry, anatomy and other useful subjects which would help them to raise their levels of knowledge and education. Now here I would also like to mention about the Japanese Emperor Meiji, who brought in American natives to Japan to teach them latest science and literature so that they could modernize quickly. The Meiji Era was the first half of the Japanese Empire. In this era, the Japanese moved from being a feudal, isolated society towards a new model of modern and industrial nation and an emerging great power. They were greatly influenced by the Western scientific, technological, legal, aesthetic ideas. And all this at the risk of being colonized by the Western powers. However, as a result of such massive adoption of fundamentally different ideas, changes to Japan were profound, deep and extensive. They affected the social structure, internal politics, military, law as well as foreign relationships. Somewhere, similar sentiments were being expressed by Raja Ram Mohan Roy. It makes sense, isn't it? He believed that English education system was scientific in nature, and the introduction of this system in India would help in establishing a more clear and comprehensive system of instruction. He believed that the change in Indian society was possible only by uprooting the mechanical and traditional Sanskrit Shastras. Now here one thing we need to understand, that he was not against the Sanskrit studies. He was against the method, the Sanskrit method of study. He was against mechanical cramming. He promoted science instead of scholasticism. He believed in synthesis of European learning, European science and literature with Hindu Shastras or Hindu literature. He said although the ancient writings the Vedas, the Quran and Upanishads, they present a deep philosophy. The English education system, the European learning, would help in study of scientific subjects, mathematics, botany, physics and chemistry. He was greatly influenced by the liberal thinking of British on one hand and the radical thinking of French on the other. It was almost 12 years after Roy's idea of English education that it became an official policy and the foundation of the kind of new India was laid. In 1835, Lord William Bentinck, the then Governor General of East India Company, passed the Legislative Act of Indian Council, the English Education Act 1835. Under this act, financial support was given to the institutions who followed the Western curriculum and they used English as a medium of instruction. Measures were taken to promote English as a language of administration and higher law courts. This made English a language of India rather than being just a language of its foreign rulers. English education, on one hand, made it convenient and cheaper for the British to use it as a language of instruction rather than printing all their books in Indian languages. And on the other hand, it allowed many Indians to appreciate the development of liberty in England and understand the advancements in science. Although confined to few, English produced memorable results. It not only gave a chance, it not only promoted the Indians to be a part of the administration of their own countries, but also be influenced by the liberal ideas which were then sweeping over the entire England. This understanding of advances in political philosophy and science gave us our 1950 Liberal Constitution, which has so far held India together and has helped us to become a powerhouse in science and technology. Don't you think that in the absence of such disciplined governance and a common language English given to us by British, India would have been somewhat like fragmented subcontinent, divided into more than 100 nations, somewhat like Africa, thus taking India from a truly backward, old and despotic world of the 18th century towards a strong world power of 21st century. English language plays a significant role. The purpose of making English a part of your life and not treating it as a foreign language rather than treating it as your own language is to prepare ourselves to engage in a society which is becoming more and more internationally oriented day by day. Today, Raja Ram Mohan Roy's philosophy of English education is quite significant. To be able to access freely and openly the universal knowledge and to be able to share freely your knowledge with the other communities of the world, the language required is English. According to an article published in BBC News in 2012, India is the second largest English-speaking country. More than 10% of its population, which means more than 125 million people across the nation, speak English. It's spoken more than the other languages such as Sanskrit, Arabic and Persian. Don't you think we should be grateful to English for making our lives easy, comfortable, liberal and free? As I say, let's not treat English as a foreign language or a second language. Let us accept it as our own language. If Hindi is our mother tongue, let us consider English as our father tongue. And let us speak it as our own language, as our native language. Let us not learn English, let us acquire it. Let us not study English, let us speak it as we know it. Let us speak English automatically, effortlessly, fearlessly.